What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Scares. That's right, it's October again, so all month long I'll be reviewing a horror film. This year I will be reviewing 7 horror franchises. In no particular order, I will be looking at every film from the Paranormal Activity, Resident Evil, Final Destination, Scream, Human Centipede, Fright Night, and Cube series. And October 1st, today, we're starting with one of my personal favorites. It's Paranormal Activity. Man, I saw this in 2009 in Minneapolis when it was first being released to screenings. So I was basically in one of the test audiences that you can actually see in those really smart trailers that Paranormal Activity was kind of known for. And I can tell you with first-hand experience that those are not actors in the trailer. Those reactions were very, very real. I'll tell you what, it is one of the only films that I can count on one hand that actually legitimately scared me. At the time, I was living in a house that was kind of set up very similarly to the house in the film. So that iconic bedroom in the movie looking out to the hallway and stairs, same thing that I saw when I looked out my door. So it really was pretty dang creepy. It also kind of brought found footage back to the forefront and seriously popularized the concept. We all know that because there were thousands of ripoffs of this movie, specifically there still is today. But this is where it all began. We may have different opinions, just don't cackionate at me. Let's get cracking. This review is brought to you by the word of the day, cackionate, to laugh loudly or immoderately. Paranormal Activity centers on young couple Katie and Mika as they slowly unravel the mystery surrounding a potential haunting in their home. Mika has purchased a home video camera to capture whatever happens in the home while they sleep, and what they discover is more than they bargained for. So yeah, this really is one of my favorite horror films, but I must admit, certain things don't work as well as they did when it first came out, primarily in editing, but some stuff in the concept as well. Editing-wise, the main argument the film is trying to make is that it's found footage. So, somebody found the raw, unedited footage. The problem with that is that there's some really, really weird and clear editing choices made in the film. For instance, this guy will be filming his girlfriend, talking, telling a story, whatever, and in the same exact angle, it'll cut away for about 1 second before going back to the same conversation with a slight crossfade. I'll give you an example of what I mean. This is an unedited story. We don't want to anger these ghosts. They'll haunt you for the rest of your life. I can't believe we're in this situation. Now, here's what this movie often does with the same sentence. We don't want to anger these ghosts. They'll haunt you for the rest of your life. I can't believe we're in this situation. That's not natural. Nobody would turn off the camera for a split second and turn it back on mid-sentence. The only reason why I think the film does this was probably because these two actors were most likely stumbling over their own sentences because they were probably ad-libbing in the movie. And they were probably ad-libbing because that's more natural than something that's more scripted. And what the editor of the movie probably did was just kind of take out when they stumble over the words and kind of stitch it together in a way that you might miss if you're not paying attention. These movies are supposed to feel amateur, but that's just amateur editing, which makes everything else look slightly worse. I also said the concept, and that mostly has to do with how the film's 13 years old at this point, and there's been a million found footage films that have come out since then. Some of them have been technically made better. So most of what happens in this movie will no longer be as strong or as effective as it was when it first came out. People, including myself, are now expecting to physically see more than what they do in this movie. And when they don't see it, they get disappointed. So I'm not sure if this is the scariest movie I've ever seen anymore, but nostalgia still holds it up pretty high, and you'll see what I mean when I talk about my end score. Positives this film has lies pretty heavily in sound editing, production design, and the premise all around. Even though it's not edited amazingly, it's still one of the better constructed found footage films because it still naturally feels amateur, especially in Mika and Katie's relationship. They do not feel like actors at all. They feel like everyday chums who are just kind of going through something weird, which is perfect. And the biggest thing that creeps you out while you watch this movie is anything that happens at night in that bedroom with that stationary camera. It is incredibly tense because you don't know what's going to happen or show up or whatever. And the bass in this movie is maximized. And I don't know what it is about the sound of bass alone that makes your hair stand on edge, but it does. And that's not the only area where sound editing comes into play. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of thought put into different sounds and what they could be. all of which are mysterious and spooky. My main argument about this movie was always that it doesn't really matter if the film shows you anything or not, that the scariest thing in the world is unique to the viewer, so no movie can ever get it right for everybody unless they somehow make you picture your own worst fear, which I think this film does a pretty good job at for a lot of people. It uses lore and exposition to pave way for you to picture whatever it is that'll show up in your nightmares later. But like I said, technicalities ultimately alter my end score here because I have to admit, editing was rough, and other found footage films have gotten the editing spot on to professionally look amateur, so to speak. I actually love the editing in Cloverfield, for example. I used to make home videos too, and the random edits that the film has specifically are amazing. Same, I think, with Blair Witch. Paranormal Activity mostly feels authentic. It's just those edits. If you don't notice them, I think you'll have a much better experience with it than I did, because that's what negatively affected my unbiased technical score the most, and that's at 66%. But nostalgia has kept this film afloat, because my personal bias score remains at 100%. I still really like this movie. I still get tempted to look away whenever something spooky is about to happen, even though I've seen it enough times to know exactly what will or will not happen. Averaging out the two scores, we come to the final score of 83%, 83 out of 100 possible stars, or a B letter grade. Does that mean it's officially a B movie? Guys, I'd like to hear your thoughts on Paranormal Activity in the comment section down below. I know a lot of people hate it, but the fan base it does have is pretty strong, so which side do you fall under? As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this review, because there's always more like it coming out each and every single day. Hit the subscribe button and bell to be notified when I come out with my review for Paranormal Activity 2. And until then, guys, peace out!
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. Thanks for joining up with us.